My name is Hannah. I've been married for 2 years, but we haven't had any babies. My husband, a surgeon at a general hospital, consoled me, suggesting it might be a matter of timing or stress. I thought I was incredibly lucky to have such a kind man as my husband. However, I was abruptly disabused of this notion. Shockingly, I discovered that my husband was having an affair with my sister, Anna. Anna is pregnant, so we need to break up.
Anna? My sister?
Yeah, he said casually, without any sign of remorse, and without a word of apology to me.
Why?
Because you can't have kids. A woman who can't have children is defective.
But I thought it was about timing.
Anna got pregnant right away. That means you and I are not compatible. There's no point in trying with a woman who's not compatible. Without room for argument, he had me agree divorce. 3 years later, here I am, unexpectedly facing my ex-husband Sam at a spa resort. It's not like I wanted to meet him. But as if by a twist of fate, Sam showed up with Anna. Hey, long time no see. I was visibly nervous and sweating. I hadn't seen Sam or Anna since then. I had been careful to visit my parents only when I knew my sister and her husband weren't there. Despite my efforts to keep my distance, here they were. So, you're here too? Funny how you run into people you don't want to see. I stayed silent, though I had so much I wanted to say. I never forgot the betrayal. But when it came down to it, I couldn't find the words. Aren't you still unmarried? I heard from Mom. Still hung up on Sam? That's creepy. Pining over someone else's husband. Yeah, it's really creepy to be obsessed with someone for so long. Sam joined in, laughing. Anna's belly was noticeably pregnant. Baby? Yeah, I'm pregnant. Something you'll never experience. What about the baby you mentioned before? That one, unfortunately, miscarried. Would have been beautiful, too, like us. Definitely, if it looked like me or Anna. If it were your child, as long as it didn't look like Sam, it would definitely be ugly. Her face is a created beauty. It was altered by numerous cosmetic surgeries since high school, and was artificially beautiful. I can't tell you how many times she's done this before, and the face looks like a different person, and it certainly has changed beautifully. Sam, also handsome, confidently asserted that their child would undoubtedly be beautiful. Divorcing you was definitely the right decision. A beautiful child, a doctor husband. I got everything I wanted. But isn't a doctor's salary not that high? The doctors I know earn quite a lot.
Shut up. I can't help it. I'm an employee at a general hospital, and it's a salaried position. Still better than factory work.
Soon he'll start his own practice and make a lot more. Don't come asking us for help then. I wondered why they brought up factory work, because I'm a factory office worker. Even when we were married, Sam often belittled my job. Now, knowing the reality, I started to doubt whether Sam was really a doctor. You'll never remarry a doctor, or anyone, for that matter. Ugly as you are. Rather than marrying a doctor, I'm pretty sure she won't be able to remarry at all. Oh, that's right. No matter how much you want to get rich, it means you can't do it. Right. As ugly as you are, you're unlikely to remarry. I have a child and a doctor husband. I'm so happy. Funny how life turns out so differently for sisters. Is that so? You think you'll be happy? Traveling alone to a resort. Not even with a man. Well, it can't be helped. You're only good for a fling. Don't go hanging yourself. Having such an ugly sister is the worst. I'd be lucky if you just went to the other world. Are you serious? Of course. Better off without a sister who's hung up on someone else's husband.
You're the worst.
You're the worst. I'm also relieved to have broken up with an ugly person like you, but now that you've become my sister-in-law, I'm wondering why I can't cut ties with you. They kept mocking my appearance, laughing heartily. Then, a tall man stood beside me. What's going on? Hey. What's this? She's really with some random guy? Even if you're desperate, picking a guy like this old man, you could have chosen better, Hannah. Just because he looks rich doesn't mean you should give in so easily. And you, how can you even play around with such an ugly girl? Who are these people? This is my ex-husband and now brother-in-law, Sam. And that's my sister, Anna. What? Introducing your fling to us? You're probably just playing with this guy, too. It doesn't matter who we are to him. I'm her fiancé, Jason Smith. What? Fiancé? No way, with this old man? Even if you're desperate, marrying this old guy? He's probably just pretending to be rich, a low-income guy. Sam and Anna ridiculed my fiancé, Jason Smith, calling him an old man. But he's only 40 years old. Anna, do you really think you can marry someone like this? You must have settled because no one else would have you. So these are the two who betrayed someone as beautiful as you. Foolish. Who are you calling foolish? Are you blind? Do you even know who I am? Huh? Huh? What do you mean who you are? You're more foolish for being with someone ugly like Hannah. You're a doctor, right? Yes, I am. I work at a general hospital. That would be Smith General Hospital, right? Exactly. What department? I'm a surgeon. Lots of patients want me to operate on them. It was hard even to get today off. Impressive. Your name is Sam, right? Yes, that's right. What about it? Well, it's just that there's no Dr. Sam in the surgery department at our hospital. We do have a male nurse named Sam, though. What? Who do you think you are? Actually, my fiancé, Jason Smith, is the director of the hospital where Sam works. If Sam were truly a doctor at that hospital, he would know Jason by name. However, Sam didn't recognize the name and didn't seem to understand from his behavior. You wouldn't understand, would you? Just a lowly factory worker. How would you know the doctors at Smith General Hospital? Or have you been admitted to surgery before? Admitted? It's troubling that you don't recognize my name. We might have to rethink having staff like you. Wait a minute. How dare this lowly factory worker speak to a doctor like Sam? Stop insulting my husband. I'm not trying to insult him. I'm just stating what I think. Anna, you've been acting all high and mighty, but you're just a fool for wanting to marry someone like Hannah. How can you be with such an ugly girl? You should be with someone as beautiful as me. You'll regret it. Don't be ridiculous. A low-income old man like you could never get a beauty like her. I see. But your husband chose to marry her, didn't he? Why did he choose Hannah? That's obvious. It was just a fling. But he realized I was better. I see. So he prefers someone whose face and heart are both ugly. What did you say? Oops, I just spoke my mind. My apologies. He laughed, covering his mouth with his fist, but Anna and Sam were furious. Don't joke. Are you mocking my wife? You've been mocking my girlfriend nonstop. If you say something, expect a response. What a guy. Well, if you make fun of me for wanting to marry Hannah, you're making fun of your own husband. Do you realize that? That's why I'm telling you. Choosing such a woman was a matter of youthful inclination. Sam is smart enough to become a doctor, so he immediately realized it was a mistake. I see. That's a great excuse. Really? You're seriously marrying this man, Hannah? Yes, he's a wonderful man. You must be as stupid as you look. What's good about a man who insults others? No money and a bad personality. Don't get too cocky. If Hannah marries me, we'll be your brother-in-law and sister-in-law. It'll make things awkward for you. True. But I don't mind. What? Anna, unable to control her anger, continued to insult him. It was sounding like a child scolding an adult. But I decided to change the topic to the upcoming baby. Anna is having a baby. Congratulations. Hope the baby grows up well. Yes, really. What about the first child? She miscarried. That's sad. A lost life is always tragic. It must have been hard for Anna. What? No, it wasn't. Huh? It was a weak life to begin with. No point in mourning something that wasn't meant to be. The future's what matters. I see, a unique perspective. Oh no! I can have as many children as I want, unlike you, Hannah. Losing one or two doesn't bother me at all. You're taking life lightly. Even if you marry this guy, Hannah, you can't expect to have children. No matter how much you want them, you can't have them. That must be it. That's just speculation. At your age, you probably have issues too. Good thing, you won't be the only one blamed. Children aren't the only bond in a marriage. That's easy to say now. Once you're married, you'll want kids. Look at me, I'm pregnant again. Can't wait to see what kind of child I'll have. Yeah, I wonder what kind of child it will be. With all that surgery, the baby won't look like you, Anna. What? What are you talking about? Of course, the baby will look like me. Even if not, if it looks like Sam, it'll definitely be good-looking. I doubt that. With all that surgery, neither of you will have a good-looking child. How dare you? I haven't had any surgery. What makes you think that? You're not even a doctor. No, Anna, you've had surgery. Your eyes, nose, and even your mouth are smaller. You've changed your jawline a lot too. Why change so much that you lose your original face? Anna, you've had surgery? No. I haven't had any surgery. I married you because you were beautiful. If you've had surgery, does that mean our child will be ugly? I haven't had any surgery. Why believe this guy? He's not a doctor. You're not lying to me, are you? Of course not. Anna was frantic, desperately denying it. But what was she planning to do? If this is a lie, I won't forgive you. Don't worry. I haven't had any surgery. If the child turns out ugly, it's because it looks like Hannah. Oh. Right. That's right. It doesn't have to look like just us. Anna pointed at me, and Sam seemed convinced. I thought it was foolish, but they were both so obsessed with beauty. Jason's bombshell didn't stop there. Sam, you've had quite a bit of surgery yourself. What? Yep, you've had as much surgery as Anna. Impressive. What are you talking about? Where have I had surgery? Well, your eyes, nose, and you've sharpened your jawline. You've changed so much you can't recognize your original form. That's impossible. I was shocked. I had never heard that Sam had surgery. Sam, you've had surgery? What did you look like before? That's not true. I haven't had any surgery. Why believe this guy? He's not a doctor. But... Anna stopped, apparently thinking that if Jason had guessed her surgery correctly, he must be right about Sam too. No matter how much you change your face, you can't change your personality. People who focus only on looks end up losing what's truly important. That's why they let go of someone as cute as Hannah. But for those who don't understand true beauty, they're a perfect match. Don't act like you know everything. How could you possibly know we've had surgery? You're just guessing. That's right. You can't know. Unless you're a plastic surgeon, you can't tell. That's correct. A non-doctor wouldn't know. But you can't fool my eyes. What? How can you say you can't be fooled? You must be very confident. Or are you saying you're a doctor? Exactly. I am a doctor, a plastic surgery specialist. What? If I'm a plastic surgeon, I can tell by looking at your faces that you've had surgery. No way! You're kidding! Are you two doing maintenance? It's starting to fall apart. That's concerning. Lies! Well, maintenance costs money. For both of you, it must be tough. You said you hadn't had surgery. You've been deceiving me? Can't wait to see the child. If it looks like Anna, it'll be as cute as Hannah. But if it looks like Sam, I wonder.
That's why I chose someone beautiful. You too had surgery. That's the same for me. I wanted a beautiful child.
As you are now, your faces will keep deteriorating. Maintenance is necessary, but at Smith General Hospital's plastic surgery department, we do maintenance. I can do it for you, but I won't give you a family discount.
We don't want anything to do with you. I never wanted you as a brother-in-law. That's right. Just because we're married, I don't consider you a brother-in-law.
That's right. Then there's no need for me to hold back. Good, you're fired.
What? What are you talking about? How can you say that? Are you crazy? I'll admit you're a doctor, but you don't have the right to fire me.
Really? Even if I'm Jason Smith, the director of Smith General Hospital, you think I don't have that right?
What?
Surprised, huh? I mentioned my name earlier.
Name? I'm sure, Jason Smith.
Jason Smith, that's right.
Jason Smith is.
Can't believe you don't know the name of the director of the hospital where you work. Are you that foolish? Nurse Sam.
Huh? What? What? Nurse? You're a nurse? No.
You're not a surgeon, but an internist, right? I've heard about you. A heartless nurse. That's certainly true. Your attitude towards patients is terrible. This conversation made it all clear.
So that's why your salary was so low.
Salary? Yes, for a doctor, you made surprisingly little. You used to say it's still better than factory work. Sure, that's true. Better than working in a factory, especially since you don't do night or late shifts. But it's true, the salary is much lower than a doctor's.
That's why you earned so little? You always told me you were a doctor. Just a hired worker, so it's natural to earn that much. You said that. Lies about surgery and being a doctor. Now everything falls apart.
What could I do?
You said you wouldn't marry me if I wasn't a doctor. I had no choice but to pretend. Are you blaming me? Yes, because you're always showing off. You're the one showing off. Thanks to you, Hannah, with that face, is marrying a doctor? And I'm becoming poorer than her.
Amazing how twisted your personality is. I kept quiet thinking we'd become in-laws, but now I don't want to be related. Hannah, I'm sorry, but I can't associate with these people after we're married. Is that okay? Of course. I don't want anything to do with them either. Great. So, I have no hesitation in firing you.
Please, director. Don't fire me.
Why now? You've been mocking my partner. It's only natural to be fired. I tolerated you because I thought you were her relative. But now, you've said you don't want any relationship.
I didn't know you were the director.
I told you from the start. Didn't you understand who I am?
I never imagined the director.
How could you work without knowing that?
But firing me, that's harsh. Working at a general hospital is a big deal. Yes. Please, at least let me stay working there.
What do you mean?
Being a doctor at a general hospital is highly regarded by other moms.
How foolish. It's the same wherever you work. Even if it's factory work, you're contributing to society.
That's not true. Factory work won't get me praise from others. What will I do when my child is born? Being a doctor matters among other moms.
That's worthless. Better fix your personality and face first. That is if you have the money.
Money. Yes. Money. I need money.
You're always about money. She's not poor, you know.
That's because she's marrying the director of Smith General Hospital. She's not poor.
No. It's not about money. It's about her heart. She cares for others, understands their perspective. That's what brings wealth.
That's not true. Ugly people don't attract rich people.
That's why you attracted a fake rich man like Sam. But I'm attracted to Hannah's heart. Her heart makes her face shine. I'd spend a fortune on her, but I wouldn't spend a cent on you, Sam.
Okay. Please, don't fire me. Hannah, ask him too. If I'm fired, I'll be an unemployed brother-in-law. How embarrassing.
No. I don't care about you. You said I'm still hung up on you. That's not true at all.
Exactly, Hannah. Well said.
Thank you.
Lies. That can't be. My face is loved by everyone.
Let's go. As Jason led me away, I could hear them arguing.
It's all your fault. You tricked me with your lies and surgery. You're ugly. And you're ugly too.
I thought how foolish they were and was grateful to have found my true love. Our trip to the spa was blissful, but hell awaited my sister and her husband upon return. The reason was that Sam was indeed fired, just as Jason had stated. Despite Sam's tearful pleas for mercy, Jason had him ousted from the hospital. Angry at Sam for lying about being a doctor and undergoing plastic surgery, Anna, who had become jobless that very day, asked him divorce. She returned to our parents' house, but after being scolded and called foolish by our parents, she stormed out in anger. Anna, choosing the path of a single mother, secretly gave birth. However, after the birth, she needed money desperately. Since the baby was Sam's, she demanded for child support. Despite Sam's initial resistance, Anna led to a promise to pay child support. However, Sam struggled to make payments, leaving him no money for facial maintenance. As his only source of confidence, his face deteriorated. Sam, unable to bear his disfigured appearance, lost the will to work. Reportedly, he now lives in a shabby apartment, surrounded by garbage, hugging his knees. Meanwhile, Anna, unable to afford facial maintenance due to child-rearing, works night shifts in building cleaning, wearing a large mask as she dislikes jobs involving social interactions. On the other hand, I married Jason in a grand wedding, celebrated by the hospital staff, and am now thoroughly enjoying happiness. Adding to my joy, I am currently 7 months pregnant. Eagerly awaiting the arrival of our baby, living a fulfilling life. My name is Emily. I'm a 30-year-old who married my same-age colleague, Ethan. I work for a multinational company, but currently, I'm on maternity leave. We were thrilled to find out I was pregnant shortly after our marriage. Ethan was longing for a child, so he was overjoyed when I broke the news. Both our families celebrated the new life growing inside me. So, it was unbelievable. Cracks began to appear in our marriage with Ethan after I got pregnant. I never imagined that minor issues would gradually widen into irreparable rifts.
Emily, stop lazing around and do some housework. Useless. Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you can slack off, brainless.
Don't say that. I'm feeling a bit sick. I made dinner, right?
You just threw together some veggies and meat, right? That's lazy cooking. I wanted hamburgers today, didn't I? Feeding me this trash.
Ethan threw away the pot au feu I made without even tasting it. He never asked for hamburgers. It was a totally unjust accusation.
I'm going to the diner. You can eat the trash in the sink. Wait. Don't you feel anything throwing away food someone made with love? Aren't you an adult?
When I snapped back, Ethan clicked his tongue while looking at my swollen belly.
Shut up. Keep nagging and I'll silence you with my fist. How can you say that? There's a baby in here. Don't even joke about that.
Yelling in frustration and sadness, Ethan left the kitchen without a glance back, leaving a hurtful remark.
It's not like I wanted this kid anyway. Whatever happens to it, I don't care. Your fetus is trash. Just like that garbage pot au feu.
That's awful. The baby did nothing wrong. Tears welled up as I looked down, but Ethan left through the front door without a care. Why did it turn out like this? Rather than being a blessing, the child became a nuisance to Ethan. Of course, the baby is not at fault. It's all Ethan's selfish whims. A child isn't a toy. You can't always get what you wish for. As I stroked my growing belly, I remembered the day I found out about this 3-month pregnancy.
Ethan, I went to the OBGYN today. It's been 3 months. Really? Good job, Emily. We've been waiting for this child. It's a boy, right?
We decided to have only one child since we both work. Ethan was strangely insistent on having a son even before I got pregnant. I want to play outside and play games with my son. So it has to be a boy. It felt like Ethan was mistaking a child for his personal toy. Pregnancy isn't certain. Whether it's a boy or a girl, I'll be happy as long as they're healthy.
Hey! Tell me the gender of the kid. I only want a boy.
It'll be a while before we know if it's a boy or a girl. But don't say you only want a boy. If it's a girl, I don't want it. I hate sassy, cunning little girls. Just you and my sister are enough. Boys are the way to go. Ethan has an older sister, Susan. She's a wise and kind ideal sister-in-law. Ethan feels inferior to the successful Susan. Everyone praises her. A 35-year-old spinster. If I have a son, I can brag to her.
Susan is a wonderful sister-in-law. You're being awful. And you don't have kids just to brag, right?
Stop nagging. Emily, make sure it's a boy. If it's a girl, I won't bother with it.
How can you say that? It's our child either way. It's our duty to cherish them.
Kids can't choose their parents, but parents can choose their kids. Unwanted children are just trash. I always thought Ethan was a strong-willed man, but his true nature showed after we got married and I became pregnant. Thinking about the future of my unborn child makes me feel gloomy. Then, a little while later, we found out it was a girl. Ethan began to despise me and our unborn daughter as if he had drawn a bad lottery ticket.
Carrying trash in your womb. Don't come into my sight. An eyesore of a trash woman. Stop it, Ethan. This child isn't trash. No parent should speak like that.
Parent? Who's that? I don't need the trash in your womb. I'd like to sell it on a flea market app.
That's awful. You'd only selfishly love even if the child were a boy.
Our daughter was growing well in my womb. As I entered the stable period of pregnancy, Ethan never longed for our daughter. It's heartbreaking that our daughter is already disliked by her father before she's even born. What should I do now? I couldn't talk to anyone but finally confided in Ethan's sister, Susan. Susan sighed knowing Ethan's behavior. Ethan has been like this since he was a kid. Turns worst when he doesn't get what he wants. I can't believe he's treating you and the baby like this, Emily. Susan, I can bear it, but it's too sad for my unborn child. Just thinking about what's going to happen makes me anxious. I'm sorry for the pain. I'm happy to have a niece. My parents feel the same. By the way, have you decided on a name? Yes, her name will be Lily. I chose it looking at a baby name book because it sounded cute. Lily, what a nice name. If she's Emily's daughter, she's bound to be adorable. I can't wait to meet my niece. Thank you, Susan. It makes me happy to hear you say that. I hope Lily grows up to be smart and kind, just like you. You're too kind. And don't worry, Ethan will flip once Lily is born. He can't resist a cute daughter. I hope so. Ethan will change once he actually sees the baby, right? Susan's encouragement gave me a glimmer of hope. Perhaps Ethan's heart will change once Lily is born. But my hope crumbled when Ethan dropped a bombshell. Emily, get back to work soon after the kid is born. I quit my job.
What? You're quitting your job right before our child is born? Why didn't you discuss this with me?
I don't need to consult you. We'll live off your savings from now on.
Don't joke. That money is for Lily's education. How can you quit your job with a wife in her final month of pregnancy? Shut up. It's my life, I can do what I want. Don't walk around with that big belly, it's annoying.
As Lily's birth approached, Ethan and I only fought. He wouldn't tell me, Susan, or even his parents why he quit his job.
Where does Ethan go every day? He says he's looking for a job, but he's not wearing a suit.
Ethan started spending less time at home. Being far from my parents, I was looked after by Susan and my in-laws until Lily was born. Lily was a healthy baby girl. My in-laws were thrilled with their first grandchild. Susan also cared for me after giving birth.
I'm glad both mother and child are healthy. You did great, Emily. Lily is really cute.
Thank you, Susan.
I'm so grateful to your parents. My parents are over the moon with Lily. But I'm so sorry about Ethan. I feel ashamed as a sister for him abandoning you during your first birth.
Ultimately, Ethan never visited his daughter at the maternity clinic. So when I returned home with Lily, we were just in his way.
Hey, shut that brat up. Her crying is annoying. Babies cry. It's normal for them to cry at night. There, Lily. Take her outside if she's disturbing. I'm going to sleep. If she cries again, you'll regret it.
Ethan became furious whenever he heard Lily crying. He didn't help with childcare, work, or housework, leaving everything to me. I was exhausted.
Lily's 1-month checkup is coming up. I'll do my best for you, Lily.
Life was tough, but at the 1-month checkup, Lily was declared healthy. Relieved, I returned home, but the front door wouldn't open no matter how much I tried the key.
What's this? Is the key different?
As I puzzled, Ethan's mocking laughter came from inside the house.
I changed the locks because of the baby's night cries. Sleep outside with the kid. You're kidding, right? You'd go this far? You and the brat are just like trash. Become homeless for all I care.
After enduring so much from pregnancy to now, my anger finally exploded.
All right, don't complain wherever we sleep.
Holding back my urge to yell, I replied in a deliberately calm and bright tone, as if speaking to someone behind me.
Susan, did you hear? Ethan told me and Lily to go be homeless and sleep outside.
When I mentioned his sister's name, Ethan's voice from behind the door sounded clearly panicked.
What? Susan's there with you? Yeah, Ethan hasn't helped at all with the baby, so I was exhausted.
Susan kindly stayed with me. Susan, who had been quietly observing, stepped back and furiously pounded on the door. Susan was usually gentle, but now she seemed even angrier than me.
Get out, Ethan. You're the one who needs to leave, you jerk. Open the door right now and apologize to Emily and Lily.
Ethan seemed cowed by her fury, but stubbornly refused to open the door. Soon, a young woman's sweet voice could be heard from inside.
What's up, Ethan?
It's noisy outside.
I woke up because of the noise.
I recognized the woman's voice. Katie, she was the new girl who joined the company right before I went on maternity leave. It's clear now.
You were cheating on me while I was pregnant? Ethan, how low can you go? Bringing another woman home while Emily is out for Lily's checkup.
As Susan and I confronted him at the door, Ethan, perhaps defiant, laughed triumphantly.
Shut up with your yapping. Katie is cute and comes from a wealthy family. I'm divorcing Emily and marrying Katie, right, Katie?
Yes.
Ethan said he loves Katie the most and that I'll have a boy. Did you hear that? I'm going to remarry Katie and build a happy family. Her family is rich. Emily, I'll graciously give you alimony and child support. Ethan, my dad thinks you are a bachelor, so I want to wear a wedding dress soon.
Susan and I fell silent in the face of Ethan and Katie's delusional future. Our accumulated anger turned to disbelief, and even yelling seemed pointless.
If you've thought this far, so be it, I'll agree to the divorce. Of course, I'll demand alimony from Ethan and Katie. Ethan, just so you know, Mom and Dad are furious with your behavior. They'll disown you when they find out about this. Susan, I don't care if Dad and Mom disown me. Just get lost with Emily and her brat.
Don't regret it, Ethan. Let's go, Emily.
Stay at my place. Lily, let's go to your aunt's house.
Thank you, Susan.
Ethan, don't complain about the consequences.
After warning Ethan, I took Lily and went to stay at Susan's place. Susan apologized as she watched Lily sleeping.
I'm so sorry, Emily. This is not what I wanted. Our parents are so ashamed. I'm sorry. Susan, please don't apologize. I actually feel relieved. It's not your fault or your parents'.
It wasn't Susan's or her parents' fault. Ethan was to blame.
I'll contact my family too. Sorry for the trouble, Susan. Nonsense. It's going to be tough, so stay with us. I'd be happy to have you and Lily. Rest easy today. Thank you so much, Susan. I'll probably be busy tomorrow.
The next day, while putting Lily to sleep at Susan's, Ethan called. Just as expected, he's panicking. I let the phone ring without answering, and it kept ringing incessantly. He seemed really panicked. After ignoring him for a while, I decided to take the call.
What do you want?
Don't call, Lily might wake up.
Emily! You set me and Katie up. You secretly did an affair investigation and snitched to Katie's parents.
What? Normally, you keep affair investigations secret.
But I bet Katie's parents were shocked to discover their daughter was involved with a married man. You shouldn't have interfered. Because of you, Katie's parents disowned her. Her dad came yelling at me yesterday.
Oh dear, that's tough. You were planning to ingratiate yourself with Katie's wealthy family for an easy life. Must be tough to be disliked by her father.
So, it's all your fault for telling Katie's parents. Now she's penniless and disowned. I can't use her family's money.
Well, if you're dating a man with a pregnant wife, any parent would be angry. If you love Katie the most, why don't you remarry her, even if you're both penniless?
Don't joke. I was supposed to live luxuriously with Katie's family wealth. You ruined my happiness.
I don't care about that. As for the divorce, I'll communicate through a lawyer. I'll demand alimony for your affair and abandoning the family. When I mentioned the estimated total of alimony and child support, Ethan begged me desperately.
Emily, I'll break up with Katie. Let's start over as a couple, live happily together.
Live happily together? Which face of yours is saying that? There's no way I'm getting back with you. Lily and I will live our lives. You will be happy with your beloved Katie.
Please forgive me. Katie is so dumb she even got fired. I can't be with her, help me.
Then you're a perfect match. A dumb man and woman. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Bye. Ignoring Ethan's excuses, I hung up. Susan, who had been watching, sighed deeply.
Emily, stay here until the divorce is finalized and things settle down. Dad and Mom are disowning Ethan. I'm thinking of cutting ties too. Susan, thank you for introducing me to the investigation agency and letting us stay at your place. My parents are a bit relieved too. I'm glad I had a friend at the investigation agency. Emily, if Ethan comes back begging for reconciliation, I'll send him away. Thank you for everything, really. I owe you so much, Susan.
I continued preparing for the divorce with my lawyer. Susan and my in-laws helped with taking care of Lily. Ethan came around a few times, but Susan turned him away.
We have evidence of Ethan's affair with Katie, his malicious abandonment, and unilateral neglect of family life. The investigation agency friend was appalled. This means a significant amount of alimony for the wife. It's a wise decision to divorce Ethan for Lily's sake. Katie's parents promised to make their daughter pay for her sins. She'll have to pay the alimony herself. Ethan sought help from our parents, but they refused. Dad and Mom can't forgive him this time.
I'll demand child support from Ethan, and he'll have to pay it himself. After the lawyer intervened, the divorce went through without a hitch. There was a lot of fuss over property division, but Ethan ended up paying a large amount in alimony due to his past actions.
Katie was disowned and kicked out by her parents, so we demanded appropriate alimony from her too. She left Ethan for another man, it seems.
I wonder how she'll pay. Leaving Ethan is the right choice, though. Katie was actually two-timing Ethan. It was just a fling for her, and she never intended to marry him. I hate to say it, but she seems quite cunning. at least smarter than Ethan. Played by a 23-year-old girl and then dumped. Ethan really is beyond help. But be careful, Emily. Ethan can be surprisingly vindictive. He might do something to you and Lily out of spite. He keeps contacting me for reconciliation even after the divorce. Seems like he's really struggling financially. He's been asking me for money too. I blocked his calls and messages. Such a hassle. As Susan said, Ethan was a foolish yet vengeful man. Despite ignoring the demands for alimony and child support, he kept begging for reconciliation. Even Katie took out loans to pay her alimony, but Ethan wants to reconcile because he can't pay. He's a useless man without any pride. As much as I hate to speak ill of him since he's Lily's biological father, Ethan's pathetic behavior was persistent and increasingly aggressive.
I'm the victim here, Emily. You ruined my life. You should be paying me alimony. Be prepared for my revenge.
Ethan was screaming resentfully in front of Susan's house. It was a nuisance to the neighbors, so Susan, her parents, and I discussed how to handle it.
I'm worried about Lily. He seems capable of putting her in danger. We should be cautious when going out. It's unbelievable he's getting upset without paying alimony.
The thought of being subjected to Ethan's irrational resentment was frightening. Susan's parents came up with safety measures for Lily and me. After making these plans, I went shopping nearby with Lily, covering for Susan who was working from home.
Lily, let's head back quickly after shopping. There might be scary people.
After a quick shopping trip, as I was pushing Lily's stroller back home, a disheveled man suddenly appeared.
If you care about this brat's life, forget all the money you owe me. Ethan! Give Lily back! Someone help! My daughter is being kidnapped by a suspicious person. If you reconcile and work for me, I'll return the kid. Hurry up and obey.
Lily, frightened by Ethan's loud screaming, started to cry.
See, such a brat can be easily dealt with. Obey my orders. Withdraw the divorce. No way. Let Lily go. You're not a husband or a father, just trash.
Ethan seemed desperate as I refused to comply. Passers-by, sensing something was wrong, discussed whether to call the police.
The police will see I'm not at fault. I'll tell them how my wife ruined my life for no reason. You're so delusional. Do you really think that excuse will work? This is your last chance. Give Lily back. Shut up. I'll take this brat and use her as a hostage.
Ethan tried to flee, holding Lily roughly, but his efforts were futile.
Officer, over here. My ex-husband is trying to forcibly take my daughter.
Several police officers intervened, and Ethan was arrested for attempted kidnapping. Lily wasn't hurt, and she stopped crying when I held her.
Thank you. My ex-husband has been vengefully harassing us. No. We're still husband and wife. That was just a marital spat. This is overblown. When will you stop calling us husband and wife? It's over. The police are aware of that. You! Did you set me up with the police?
Don't say such horrible things. Your parents advised talking to the police because of the danger. They were concerned for me and Lily.
How low can you be? I'm not at fault. I just came to see my daughter.
Witnesses to Ethan's excuses shook their heads in denial. The police grimaced at his transparent lies. Great father, using his daughter as a shield. And even his excuses are pathetic.
Shut up. Being disowned and dumped by Katie, it's all your fault. Even involving the police.
Ethan, displaying an incredibly disgraceful behavior, was unflinchingly detained and taken away by the police. Even in the patrol car, Ethan continued to shout, causing the police a great deal of trouble.
I'm relieved Lily doesn't understand yet. With his attitude, he's causing trouble for the police too. It was good we consulted them.
Susan rushed over, and we were briefly interviewed by the police, but it ended quickly. Susan was relieved Lily was safe.
Lily, I'm so glad you're okay. Ethan, I won't forgive him this time. I'm cutting all ties, he's no longer my brother. I hope the police give him a hard time.
I also let my guard down, thinking we'd be safe because it's our neighborhood. Thankfully, the police were keeping watch, so everything turned out okay. Ethan's parents must be shocked their disowned son was now in police custody. In the police station, Ethan keeps insisting he's not at fault, despite the evidence. Everything Ethan has done is recorded. It's clear he's at fault for the divorce. He always had a strong sense of victimhood. I remember Ethan complaining before that his parents favored you, Susan. Is that true? Our parents never played favorites. Ethan just always wanted to be special and hated losing but never put in the effort. I see. He was a bit childish at work too. I thought it was charming at first, but he started to pretend to be more mature, hoping a gentle person like you would change him, but his nature didn't change. He was oddly fixated on having a boy to brag about and play with. Now I realize he had no friends. With his personality, he wasn't the type to play well with others. While chatting and comforting Lily, we got a call from the police. They issued a restraining order against Ethan for Lily and me. Violating a restraining order is a clear crime. Ethan seems to have learned a little. He still won't pay alimony or child support, though. He should take responsibility for what he's sown. If he doesn't pay, it'll be subject to enforcement, right? Yes. He'll likely be an enforcement target soon. After my maternity leave, I returned to my job at the multinational company. I'm happy I can still be close with you after the divorce. Me too. I'm relieved we can talk like before. My parents are grateful too. Having you look after Lily is a big help. It lets me work with peace of mind. To give me a break, our parents suggested Susan and I grab coffee together. Lily is adored by my in-laws. As we were chatting about work and other updates, a familiar female voice approached us. It's Emily, right? Long time no see. How have you been? To my surprise, there was Katie, Ethan's former affair partner, holding hands with another man. The nerve of her to casually greet me. Hello. Thanks for everything back then. After that, I did some reflecting. I've been working and paying back the money. I'm dating this guy I met at work now. Really? Hard to keep track of how many boyfriends you've had. As Katie and her current boyfriend were leaving, she suddenly added, "Oh yeah, about Ethan. I was walking in the night streets for work, and he started following me around. Super clingy and creepy, so I called the cops." Then Katie and her flashy boyfriend happily left. Susan and I exchanged a look and chuckled wryly. A 23-year-old former mistress creeped out and calling the cops on him. I can't forgive him, but Katie kind of delivered the final blow to Ethan. Getting the police involved again. Ethan, who hasn't paid alimony or child support, became a target for enforcement. He's struggling while juggling multiple part-time jobs to make the payments. Rumor has it that Ethan caused a scene at the place where Katie works. Katie ended up breaking up with her boyfriend after he found out about her involvement with Ethan. Ethan's causing police trouble for the third time, and Katie's broken up but pregnant. Ethan might be hopeless, but Katie will probably survive cunningly. Ethan lost his part-time jobs and became even more destitute. I plan to relentlessly pressure him to pay the alimony he owes, as it's entirely his own doing. Not at all. Just because our dads are friends, I'm being pushed into marriage. I'm not young anymore, and my dad wants me to settle down soon. So, you don't love your wife? Of course not. She's an older woman. I'm just marrying her for appearances. The only one I love is you, May. I shivered at this revelation of Tom's true nature. And this May, who is she really? To think she'd boldly do this with a man about to get married tomorrow. I wanted to confront them right there, but I paused to think. Merely complaining wouldn't satisfy me after such terrible treatment. Then, an idea struck me. I quickly messaged my dad on my phone. Dad, is everyone still there? I'm about to send a video call, make sure everyone watches it. I want all the relatives to see it too. And so, I broadcasted it live for everyone. Everyone, it's starting! At that moment, everyone in both families gasped at what appeared on the screen of the phone I'd sent. I am Sarah Johnson, a 45-year-old employee. I struggled with not being married after turning 40. Maybe my standards for marriage were too high. I had a cousin 10 years older than me. She married at 21 during the height of the economic boom. Her husband was well-educated, high-earning, and tall, the so-called triple high man. As a child, I envied her marriage. So, I dreamed of a similar marriage when I grew up. However, by the time I entered middle school, the economic bubble had burst. By adulthood, it became hard to meet such ideal men. Many friends married out of compromise and calculation. But I didn't want to marry just for the sake of it. Before I knew it, I was over 40. And starting to panic. I grew up in a single-parent home after losing my mother young, with my dad as my only strong supporter. It was 4 years ago when he suddenly fell ill and was hospitalized. Worried, I visited him daily after work. That's where I met Dr. Tom Johnson, recently appointed as the hospital's director. Tom had taken over as director from his father, who was now the chairman. Tom's dad and mine were close friends since high school. Perhaps that's why Tom often talked to me when I was in the ward. One day, as I was about to go home, Tom called out to me from behind. "Would you like to have dinner together tonight?" Surprised by the sudden invitation, I happily agreed.
Yes, I'd love to.
That night, we had a lively dinner talking about our parents. He too had lost his mother early, and we found common ground. As dinner ended, Tom suddenly looked at me seriously and said, "Would you like to date me?" I was surprised by his sudden declaration. But he was tall and took pride in his work. Thinking he might be the one I've been searching for, I didn't hesitate to respond.
Yes, I'd be happy to.
After 3 years of dating, Tom proposed. Considering our work schedules, we postponed the wedding for a year. First, we looked for a new home and lived together before officially registering our marriage. All that was left was the wedding ceremony. I thought I could finally make my father proud. However, as the wedding approached, troubling events began to cloud over our relationship. It started some time after we registered our marriage. When we were living together, I still kept most of my belongings at my parents' house. After we registered our marriage, I began to gradually move my belongings to our new home. However, since I continued working post-marriage, I often left the house empty. Since I continued working after our marriage, I was often out, leaving my valuables like jewelry and handbags at my parents'. One day, as we were about to go out and I went back to my parents to get my handbag, Tom said,
"Sarah, isn't it troublesome to go back for your things every time we go out? Our home is secure, so you should bring your valuables here."
Indeed, when we bought this house, we subscribed to a 24-hour surveillance service. I felt it would be safer here than at my parents'. Since then, I decided to move all my belongings to our new home. But strange things began to happen. Every time I came back from work, I noticed some of my belongings were missing. There were no signs of external break-ins, which was odd. I thought about asking Tom, but it felt awkward to sound suspicious. Moreover, the missing items were typically women's things like cosmetics and jewelry. Even my favorite shampoo in the bathroom, available only through the official website, was gone. It was odd that only my shampoo kept disappearing. Tom used his own, so it didn't make sense for him to take mine. I was concerned but didn't discuss it with Tom, to avoid seeming incapable of managing my own things. Little did I know, this would lead to regrettable circumstances. The wedding was drawing near. Tom was often on night shifts and began to leave more frequently for conferences on Sundays and holidays. With so many preparations needed for the wedding and limited time to see each other, I found myself going to the venue with my father and father-in-law. Tom had taken care of the early arrangements like the venue and invitations. So, it was mostly the reception and gifts we needed to discuss. Still, there were things I wanted to decide with Tom, especially the dress fitting. But Tom said to just pick whatever dress I liked. I waited for a chance at home and asked Tom, "Hey, could you sometimes come to the planning sessions? I want you to help pick out my dress. Can't you skip a conference just once?" Tom seemed flustered and answered,
"Eh? No, I can't miss those conferences. Whatever dress you like is fine by me. I trust you and your dad with the reception and gifts."
I was disappointed by his response.
"Why do you have to be at these conferences right before our wedding? It's medical stuff, Sarah won't understand. I just can't miss it."
His seemingly annoyed response made me suspicious. But with the wedding so close, I didn't want to argue, and reluctantly agreed to his terms. Then, one day while working in the morning, I realized I had forgotten some documents at home for an afternoon meeting.
"Oh no! I've been so busy with work and wedding preparations, I completely forgot. I need to hurry back and get it."
I explained the situation to my boss and was allowed to return home during my break. Fortunately, our new home isn't too far from the office, so it's possible to go there and back during the break. As I hurried home and approached the house, I noticed a strange figure in the living room. I couldn't believe my eyes. One was Tom, who should have been home after his night shift. But there was another person, a young woman I didn't recognize. She was sitting on the sofa next to Tom. Tom had his arm around her shoulder and seemed to be talking to her. I tried to listen from outside, but couldn't hear anything due to the soundproofing. Curious about who this woman was, but short on time, I quietly entered through the back door, grabbed the documents, and left the house unnoticed. I didn't want to believe that Tom was cheating right before our wedding, but they seemed too close. Suppressing my urge to confront them, I headed back to the office. I made it to the meeting, but my mind was elsewhere. Tom always says he's busy with conferences and night shifts, but is that really true? Could he have been seeing someone else all this time? These thoughts consumed me even during work. Our chances to see each other remained rare, even on weekends. I thought about asking my father-in-law, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. If Tom was lying, I didn't want to cause my father-in-law any worry. With the wedding approaching, I felt increasingly anxious. I wished my mother was here to talk to. I didn't want to burden anyone else, so I had no friends to confide in. My friends coming to the wedding were all happy for me. I couldn't disappoint them by revealing my concerns. I hoped that the scene with Tom and the unknown woman was just a hallucination. I was trying to escape reality in my mind. With this wishful thinking, I approached the day before the wedding. Tom said he had a late shift on this important night and would come home late. Before leaving for work, he suggested,
"Why don't you spend tonight at your dad's? I'll be home late."
Feeling restless at home, I took his advice and went to my dad's house. When I arrived, my dad greeted me at the door.
"Sarah, you're back. Actually, we're having a pre-wedding celebration tonight with both families. Everyone's here."
When I looked closely, I noticed many shoes lined up at the entrance. Surprised, as I hadn't heard anything about this, I entered. As soon as everyone saw me, they greeted me with a round of applause.
"Congratulations, Sarah." Thank you,"
I replied, a bit embarrassed. I joined the celebration for a while, but decided to leave early to rest for the next day, thinking it would be best to rest for the big day tomorrow. I had just one drink and then headed home. Exhausted, I felt sleepy as soon as I got home. Thinking I could shower in the morning, I lay down in my bedroom upstairs. I woke up around midnight, having fallen asleep at 8 p.m. Looking at the clock, it was past 11 p.m. Fully awake now, I thought of taking a bath. Just as I got up from bed and was about to head downstairs, I heard some noise from the bathroom. I wondered if Tom was in the bath. But then I faintly heard voices, including a woman's. Could it be Tom and that young woman from the living room, together again? With a surge of anxiety, I quietly peeked into the bathroom. There were Tom and the woman from before, about to get into the tub together. She must be his affair. Then Tom said something outrageous.
Just because our fathers are close, I'm being forced into this marriage. I'm old enough, and my dad keeps telling me to settle down. So, you don't love your wife, Tom? Of course not. She's an older woman. I'm just marrying her for appearances. The only one I love is you, May.
I felt a chill hearing this conversation. This was the real Tom. And this May, who was she really? Boldly doing this with a man about to get married the next day. And without any guilt, she said something odd.
But Tom, it's amazing how you built this big house and buy me nice things. Well, my dad did chip in a bit for this house. And Sarah buys her stuff with her own money. Women like that don't need to be supported. That's why I can afford to buy you a condo. Yay, I'm so happy. But won't your wife find out?
No worries.
She hasn't even noticed her jewelry and stuff missing. I took those, but they were so old-fashioned. I sold them all.
My missing belongings, it was all Tom's doing. Given to his mistress. Unforgivable. I felt my fists trembling with rage. Then May picked up my shampoo and said,
"This shampoo is really good. I'll take it home today." Why not? Sarah just orders stuff online. If it's missing, she'll just buy more.
So, May was taking my frequently missing shampoo. Treating everything in this house as if it were hers. But more than that, my heart was tearing apart. Facing such betrayal from Tom right before our wedding. I wanted to burst into the bathroom and confront them, but I paused to think. Merely complaining wouldn't satisfy me after such terrible treatment. Then, an idea struck me. I quickly messaged my dad on my phone.
"Dad, is everyone still there? I'm about to send a video call, watch it carefully. I want all the relatives to see it, too."
After sending the message, it was immediately read.
"What's up? Sure, everyone's still here. Are you and Tom going to make a speech for the pre-wedding celebration? Just wait and see. Oh, and make sure to record the video I'm sending."
I switched to video call on my messaging app. Then, I quietly opened the bathroom door.
"Everyone, it's starting!"
I narrated the situation, filming Tom and May. Of course, the video perfectly captured them in the bathroom, up to no good.
Whoa! What's going on here? Stop, please!
Caught off guard by the sudden turn of events, both of them were panicking. Ignoring them, I continued my narration.
"Look, everyone. The groom-to-be, who's supposed to have a wedding tomorrow, seems to be in the bath with a young woman."
Over the call, I could hear the rustling voices of my relatives at home. Some even screamed in shock. My father-in-law, watching the video, shouted in anger.
"What the heck is this?"
Feeling sorry for startling him, I kept narrating.
"Here's Tom and, who might this lady be? How long has this been going on? Sarah, enough is enough." Oh, the cheating husband is getting defensive. Does he even realize his position?
Tom, clearly angered, continued to lose his temper. Beside him, May was shivering, clinging close to him. Watching them on the screen, my father-in-law looked furious. He snatched the phone from my dad, glaring at the screen, and said,
"Tom, what are you doing at such a critical time? And isn't that woman our hospital's nurse, May?"
Turns out, May was a nurse working at Tom's hospital. Surprised but trying to remain calm, I continued my commentary.
"Oh. What a revelation. The mistress is none other than the groom's subordinate. Sarah, that's enough, I get it,"
my father-in-law said, cutting off the call. Discovering that his own son was having an affair with a subordinate at home. My father-in-law might have been deeply shocked. I regretted causing him distress. Seeing Tom's infidelity firsthand, I was distraught. As I hung my head in regret, Tom taunted me.
"See? You upset Dad. How are you gonna fix this? You've ruined my reputation as the hospital's successor. If something happens, you're responsible." "Yeah, right. You should be grateful to be marrying him. Know your place."
They were blaming me, conveniently ignoring their own wrongdoing. It was as if they were making it seem like I was the one who had done something wrong. Filled with frustration, I couldn't respond. Then, the doorbell rang. On the monitor, I saw my dad and father-in-law. Not alone, but with all the relatives from the pre-wedding celebration. I quickly opened the door and let everyone in. My dad looked extremely worried.
Sarah, are you okay? It must have been tough. But it's all right now. We're all here for you.
Dad, thank you. Seeing his face, I couldn't hold back my tears anymore. I was really frustrated and hurt. Crying, I collapsed on the spot. The relatives comforted me, patting my head and back. Overwhelmed, I started sobbing. My father-in-law rushed to the bathroom. And without knocking, burst open the door.
Tom, what on earth are you doing? Whoa, Dad! What's going on?
They were just as surprised as when I first entered. Then, more relatives followed him in.
What the heck? Why are you all barging in? Oh no! Everyone, please leave!
Tom and May, still showing no remorse, angered my father-in-law even more.
Do you two even realize what you're doing? Get out of there now. We'll talk later. Really, young girls these days have no shame.
My aunt remarked, looking at May in disbelief. They got out of the tub, covering themselves with towels, and hurried to the dressing room. But their clothes weren't there. I had secretly hidden them before filming with my phone.
Hey, where are our clothes?
Tom, wrapped in a towel, looked bewildered. I almost burst out laughing. May just sat there, trembling. Everyone looked at them with utter disbelief.
Wait, let me change in the bedroom. I'll catch a cold like this. No. No. Help me.
My father-in-law was tough. He probably thought I'd escape if he let me change.
Well, it's fine. Just sit there. Tom, why did you do this? Explain yourself. Well, I married Sarah because you told me to. She wasn't really my type. What? You never said that. Of course I didn't. I'm the heir, and my dad's word was law. I thought if I disobeyed, I'd lose my chance at being the hospital director.
My father-in-law was speechless at Tom's explanation. The relatives looked at him in shock. I married out of obligation. And it made me incredibly sad. Noticing this, my father-in-law spoke kindly to me. Sarah, I'm sorry for the pain Tom caused. It's not your fault.
No, it's not your fault. Please, lift your head.
But, with the wedding tomorrow, this is a mess. I felt a sudden pain in my heart. The wedding I had longed for now seemed impossible. My dad put his hand on my shoulder. Sarah, you don't have to force yourself. I'll explain everything to the guests. That means we're calling off the wedding. I couldn't imagine continuing a marriage with Tom. So, there's no choice but to cancel the wedding. When it seemed settled, Tom said with a relieved look.
So, I'm free now? No, that's not happening.
My father-in-law said sternly.
Why? We're not getting married, right? You cheated with a young nurse. Only the family knows now, but soon it'll be the talk of the hospital. We can't have someone like you as the director. That's right. Tom, you've disgraced our family. You're not fit to be the heir.
The other relatives nodded in agreement.
Does that mean I'm fired? Yes, you are.
Tom started making ridiculous excuses.
This is no joke. Sure, it was an affair, but I was tricked. She used her youth to seduce me. So, I'm not at fault here.
Tom pointed at May, trying to pin all the blame on her. How cowardly. May, with tears in her eyes, said,
That's terrible, Tom. You said you loved only me. You only married her out of obligation, right? Was the promise of an apartment all a lie?
Tom's poor excuses seemed to dig his grave even deeper. especially after May exposed everything in front of everyone.
Idiot, don't say unnecessary things.
Tom said this, his face turning red, and he collapsed on the spot. My father-in-law, looking down at Tom, said in a disappointed tone,
Tom, I've completely misjudged you. If you had shown some willingness to protect her, I might have let this go quietly. I could have even helped you find a job at another hospital. What? Dad, you should have said that earlier. Fool! How rotten can you be?
My father-in-law scolded Tom with a fury I had never seen before. Tom was speechless. Watching Tom, my father-in-law took a moment and then started to explain.
I wanted to repay a debt to a man who once helped me. That's why I wanted you to make his granddaughter, Sarah, happy. But now, I can't face her grandfather with this situation. What? What do you mean?
Tom looked puzzled. I didn't know that my grandfather was my father-in-law's benefactor. My grandfather had passed away when I was young. Then, my father-in-law explained more about my grandfather. He had struggled financially when he started his own hospital. At that time, my maternal grandfather, who was the head of a major local bank, helped him. My grandfather often visited the gastroenterology department of the general hospital for his gastric ulcer, where my father-in-law was the doctor. My father-in-law had always wanted his own hospital and discussed financial matters with my grandfather, who even assisted him when he started his hospital. It turns out my father-in-law had fallen in love with my mother, his daughter, at the time. He confessed his feelings, but my mother was already dating my father. He even shared this bittersweet love story with us. After finishing the story, my father-in-law turned back to Tom.
That's why, Tom, you owe your current position to Sarah's grandfather. I wanted you to make Sarah happy because of that.
Then May spoke up.
What's that about? That's just parents' convenience, right? Deciding your son's marriage partner for such a reason is the worst. Quiet. A woman who cheats has no right to speak. No. Stop. Tom, help me.
May clung to Tom, begging for help. But Tom shook off her hand and shook his head slightly.
I'm sorry, May. There's nothing I can do now. Please.
May cried, and my father-in-law spoke to her.
That's how it is. I'm sorry, May. You'll have to leave the hospital too. What? That's so unfair. It can't be helped. Your actions could jeopardize the hospital's reputation.
Hearing my father-in-law's words, May looked completely defeated. Seeing that, I decided to deliver the final blow. By the way, I'm going to need alimony from you. Even if you don't like it, we have evidence, you know.
What? No way. I've just lost my job, and I already bought so much stuff because Tom promised to buy me a condo. But now that's gone too. All I have left are loan repayments. What am I supposed to do now? Oh? That's just what you deserve for messing with someone else's husband. Think of it as your punishment and deal with it.
When I said that, May broke down in tears. But I didn't let that stop me from also addressing Tom.
And speaking of alimony, of course, I'll be getting it from you too, Tom. And I'll be getting the divorce papers tomorrow, so be sure to sign them, okay? Right. And I can't forgive you for betraying Sarah, the granddaughter of a man who did so much for me. I want you out of the hospital and our family. In other words, you're disowned.
Then the others around us started saying, yes, that's right. Tom and May, realizing they had no options left, just slumped in defeat. After that, I filed the divorce papers, and the divorce from Tom was finalized. I tried to sell our new home, but it was hard to find a buyer. Maybe because it was a custom-built house with too many personal touches. I had to sell it for less than half the original price, but at least I got the money from the sale, which I used for property division and alimony. Tom lost his wife and all his property. Disowned by his parents, he couldn't even return home. He started living alone, struggling to find a new job. I only know this because our fathers still keep in touch. My dad says he hears complaints about Tom every time he meets my former father-in-law. Tom keeps showing up at his parents' house, begging on their doorstep. But they never let him in. And I heard through the grapevine that May went to Tom's place. She's still upset about not getting a condo, and keeps pestering him to get back to being a doctor so she can live in luxury. Tom, at his wit's end, even called me.
Sarah, I was wrong. I was deceived by a younger woman. I'll never cheat again, so let's get back together,
he begged. But I replied in the same tone.
I was wrong too, for being deceived by your good prospects. So, I've decided to stop choosing men based on their job or looks. Let's just find our own ways to live, so, goodbye. Hey, wait a minute.
Before he could finish, I hung up and immediately blocked his number. I also blocked him on all email and messaging apps. According to my dad, May is working in a nightclub and Tom is doing odd jobs while job hunting. But their affair scandal is well known among medical workers in the area. So it's unlikely Tom will find a job in the field again. I heard that whenever medical professionals visit May's workplace, their affair becomes the main topic of conversation. Because of this, the reputation of wherever she works suffers, and it's said that May ends up getting fired from every place she works at. Still, May hopes for Tom to return to being a doctor. She even moved to a remote area, with her dragging a reluctant Tom along. Now, no one knows where they are. As for me, I went back to my parents' home and am commuting to work from there. I'm not thinking about marriage for a while, especially after seeing my cousin, who I thought had the perfect marriage, go through a late divorce. But she's gradually becoming independent and seems happy with her work and hobbies. So, for now, I'm enjoying my time alone. Then, one day, a male colleague in my department spoke to me. Sounds like you've been through a lot. Well, it's kind of like a heroic tale. My divorce scandal became a well-known story at work. It's a bit embarrassing, but whenever someone asks, I always answer with a smile. Then, Steve, who had a serious look on his face, said to me,
Actually, I've been interested in you, Sarah, since I transferred here. But it seemed you were already engaged, so I had given up.
While saying this, he invited me out for lunch during our break. Steve, 2 years younger than me, transferred to our company 3 years ago. Since then, we've been working together in the same department. I hadn't particularly noticed him before, but he's always been kind. And whenever I made mistakes, he subtly covered for me. Maybe someone like Steve is the ideal partner for me. I had thought I wouldn't consider marriage for a while. But it's surprising that I might have met a good person so close to me. It seems I had completely overlooked it until now. Everyone has 1 or 2 failures. Thinking about it that way, I've started to consider this new opportunity positively. I'm nearing my mid-40s, but age doesn't matter when it comes to happiness. After all, life is only once.
I need a teenage bride. I'm about to start looking for a wife, so let's break up.
Suddenly, Michael's words in the fancy restaurant almost made me drop the wine glass I was holding.
What do you mean?
I hadn't expected him to bring up breaking up, especially not in such a cheerful tone, after we hadn't seen each other for a while and he'd even taken me to this fancy restaurant.
Come on, you're in your 30s, right? I just think I'd prefer a younger woman if I'm going to get married. Plus, long distance just isn't for me.
Flushed with alcohol, Michael casually said it as if he was just stepping out to the convenience store.
What? Is this some kind of joke?
The words got stuck in my throat.
But Michael, you told me to wait.
I remembered the words Michael once said to me, I'll definitely marry you, so wait for me, and tears welled up in my eyes. I could hear the sound of the path to my happiness crumbling before me. My name is Julie Johnson. I'm turning 32 this year. I work at a fashion company, a dream job for me since my youth, and I'm the manager of one of the stores. Every day, I'm busy recommending the perfect clothes to our customers. Many customers prefer not to be approached in the store. But I still try to increase our profits by engaging them in conversation. Now, the store I manage boasts the highest sales in the country.
Julie, you're so lucky. You're good at your job and have a boyfriend of 10 years. Your future is secure.
A colleague said to me enviously on our way home from a manager training at the headquarters. Indeed, I have a boyfriend of 10 years, Michael Taylor. He works at a major insurance company. Michael and I met in our first year of college and started dating in our senior year. I always thought it was a one-sided crush until he unexpectedly confessed to me. I remember being so happy that I cried. Since then, we've spent 10 years together as a couple. But 3 years ago, in the spring, Michael was transferred to Chicago by his company. I was sad, but it was a promotion, so I happily saw him off to Chicago. Opposite to my feelings, Michael seemed excited about his promotion and left for Chicago with high spirits. Looking back, I should have expressed my feelings more honestly then and done everything to keep him here. But it's too late for regrets. After Michael's transfer, as expected, I felt very lonely. At the age of 29, many of my friends from college and work were getting married. Some were even starting to have children and were busy with parenting. I felt left behind and a bit anxious. I wanted to contact Michael every night but managed to hold back, calling him about once every 3 days. Maybe sensing my feelings, Michael came back to New York for my 30th birthday and threw a grand celebration. He took me to the fanciest hotel in town and gave me a necklace from my favorite jewelry brand. I was so happy.
Julie, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. But I'm sure I want to marry you. Right now, my career is really taking off, and I'm enjoying it. So, I might have to make you wait a bit longer, but I promise we'll spend our lives together.
Michael said, smiling brightly like a comic book hero, showing off his charming dimples.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll wait. I can't imagine being with anyone but you. So, I'll keep waiting. Good luck with your work.
I always wanted to be a cute, demure girlfriend in front of Michael. So, I suppressed my desire to get married soon and respected his wishes. Michael seemed satisfied with my response and drank several beers. Our faces flushed, we looked into each other's eyes, reaffirming our feelings for each other. While working in New York, I always thought about Michael, who told me to wait for him. I was asked out to dinner and even confessed to by male colleagues and supervisors. Some men insisted on dating even if marriage wasn't on the table. But I steadfastly turned down any man who approached me. With a boyfriend like Michael, whom I'd promised a future, I couldn't even consider a casual relationship with another man. I've loved Michael for so many years. My feelings weren't going to shift to someone else. Like a loyal dog, I kept waiting for my master. As my peers rushed into marriages, invitations to friends' and colleagues' weddings increased. Each time, I imagined myself in a wedding dress next to Michael, longing to marry him soon. It had been nearly 3 years since our long-distance relationship began. Lately, Michael was either really busy or my calls went to voicemail. Initially, I called every 3 days, then it dwindled to once a week, then once a month. Even my texts went unread. There was a time when he'd reply within 30 minutes, but now it could take days. I tried not to worry, thinking he was just busy, but not hearing from him even on our anniversary was strange. I didn't want to nag Michael about our dwindling communication, but today was our 10th anniversary. Feeling lonely, I called him as the date changed.
Hey, Michael?
I said when it seemed like he answered. But I didn't hear anything from his side. Maybe a bad signal? I tried again, hello? Then I heard a faint woman's voice in the background. It wasn't clear. And I couldn't tell if it was a conversation. Listening intently, I suddenly heard a woman's indiscreet voice. Shocked, I quickly hung up. What was that? Just my imagination? I desperately tried to convince myself. Maybe Michael was just watching a movie at home, got too absorbed, and forgot to call me. The phone must have accidentally connected. It had to be. I convinced myself of this. The power of self-suggestion is incredible. I managed to convince myself that the voice I heard during my call with Michael was just a mistake. The next day, surprisingly, Michael called.
Sorry about yesterday. I had to work late and couldn't call. It was our 10-year anniversary, wasn't it? I'm sorry it's late, but thanks for these 10 years. Julie, you're the best woman for me.
I could picture him apologizing over the phone. But him quickly apologizing and reassuring me reminded me of how wonderful he is.
No, it's okay. You were busy, right? I'm sorry for calling so many times. I'm really happy to be your girlfriend. Thank you.
Love is indeed blind. Just hearing from Michael made me forget all about the previous night's call.
Thanks to you too. By the way, you called yesterday, right? I was asleep, and I think I accidentally answered the call with my arm. Did you hear anything strange?
Huh? I was surprised when Michael brought up yesterday's phone call. Instantly, the sound of the woman's voice came to mind, but by that time, I had convinced myself it was my misunderstanding, so I replied, no, nothing special.
Okay, that's good then. Julie, I'm really sorry for always making you wait. I love you.
With that, Michael hung up the phone. Michael's really working hard. The loneliness of our long-distance relationship wasn't just hard on me. Michael must also want to talk and see me more. But right now, his career is at a crucial phase. I don't want to be a burden on him. I waited, dreaming like a young girl, for Michael's work to go well so he could come to me for marriage in the best way possible. The week of your birthday, I've got some time off. I'll be coming back to New York, so let's go out for dinner. Michael said, making me overjoyed a week before my 32nd birthday.
Really? I'm so happy. I'm looking forward to it.
Busy Michael was making time to see me. With the recent lack of communication, my excitement was at its peak. Plus, Michael had recently been promoted to sales manager. With his promotion, maybe he was going to propose. I couldn't contain the excitement in my heart. On the upcoming Wednesday, which luckily was my day off, I dressed up and waited for Michael. When I greeted him at the station, arriving by train, seeing my long-distance lover after so long made me smile uncontrollably. We spent the day like we used to when we weren't long-distance, watching a movie and visiting a newly opened mall. Michael seemed different from before, responding to my excited chatter with a flat, "Oh, that's fun."
Are you feeling okay? You seem off. No, just not used to being back, that's all.
Strange, I laughed. And Michael finally cracked a smile. We continued our date normally and decided to have dinner as it got dark. Actually, I've made a reservation at a hotel nearby.
Really?
Yeah, let's go there.
Okay.
Michael took me to a renowned, high-end hotel restaurant everyone knows. I entered, a bit nervous. Because I was in casual clothes. But the waitress greeted us without any disdain, "Table for two under Mr. Taylor, right this way." There was even a reservation card with Mr. Taylor on our table, and I glanced at Michael, thinking how well prepared he was. This place is nice, isn't it? It was featured on TV recently. So, I thought I'd make a reservation.
Yes, it's lovely. I'm starving.
Michael smiled at my comment and quickly ordered our first drink. The food was elegant and delicious, and I felt my face light up with joy. Such a wonderful dinner he planned. Is he going to propose? My hopes soared even higher. So, when we were almost done with our meal and the main dish arrived, I couldn't believe the words that came out of Michael's mouth.
You know, I've been wanting to talk to you about something for a while.
What is it? Michael had his fourth drink and was completely drunk. He glanced around quickly, making sure no one else was around. Then, he took a deep breath.
I want a teen bride. I'm gonna start looking for one, so let's break up.
I nearly dropped my wine glass in shock at Michael's sudden declaration.
What do you mean?
I had never expected him to bring up a breakup so cheerfully, especially after he had taken me to a fancy restaurant for our long-awaited reunion. I had even thought he might propose. For me, who had been expecting such a proposal, this was a bolt from the blue. "'Cause, you're in your 30s, right? I just think I'd prefer a younger girl if I'm getting married. Plus, long distance is just not for me." Michael, his face flushed with alcohol, spoke as if he was saying something as casual as "I'm just popping out to the store."
"Is this some kind of prank?"
The words stuck in my throat.
"But Michael, you told me to wait."
I remembered Michael's words from the past, "Wait for me, I'll definitely marry you," and my eyes filled with tears. I remembered the days I spent waiting for Michael, the man I loved. It was never easy. I had wanted to end our long-distance relationship immediately. But I had waited because I wanted to marry Michael.
"This has to be a joke, right?"
I heard the sound of the path to my happiness crumbling.
"Sorry, but I've made up my mind. I've been keeping Natalie waiting for too long. So today, finally telling you how I really feel has cleared my mind."
Indifferent to my sadness, Michael spoke with a sense of relief, now that he had accomplished his goal. Natalie must be Michael's affair partner. That's right. The voice I heard from Michael's phone call the other day must have been Natalie's. Thinking about it made me incredibly frustrated.
"Michael, you told me to wait, and now you're just going to leave me that easily?"
I felt embarrassed that I had clung to such a man, but at that moment, the reality was too shocking, and I couldn't help but think if there was any way to make Michael stay.
People change their minds. Getting married in your 30s, you can't have many kids, right? That's why Natalie, being only 19, is so exciting for the future. Plus, teenage skin is beautiful, the reactions so genuine and cute. I have to go back now to prepare for my marriage with Natalie, so I'll settle the bill. Thanks for everything, Julie. Bye."
Before I could even accept it, Michael hurriedly left the hotel as if escaping. I was so overwhelmed by the sudden turn of events that I just sat there, dazed, for a while.
"Are you okay, ma'am?"
The waitress came over and snapped me back to reality.
"Yes, I'm fine. Sorry if I caused any disturbance."
"Not at all." I wondered why I was the one apologizing as I left the restaurant with shaky steps. The shock was too much, and I couldn't think straight. That day, perhaps also because of the alcohol, I stumbled onto the train and made my way home. Once I entered my room, I finally broke down and cried uncontrollably. It was unforgivable. But Michael had already gone back to Chicago, and there was no more involvement with him. Spending any more time thinking about Michael, who had betrayed me, seemed pointless. Yet, my heart still harbored feelings for him. The thought of him still hurt, even though I knew better. It would be a while before I could think about love again. I was already 32. Just like Michael said, in the dating world, younger people are more sought after. I couldn't help but feel that no one would need someone like me anymore. For now, I decided to just go to bed. I could think about tomorrow when it came. That was the only way I could keep my sanity. In the following days, I focused solely on my work. My best coworker, concerned about me, invited me to karaoke. Singing at the top of my lungs seemed to ease my feelings a bit, and I couldn't be more grateful to them. Working at the store, I sometimes felt down seeing couples or married customers. But I knew I couldn't keep looking down, or happiness would slip away. I tried my best to stay positive. At first, it was just a facade, but gradually, my spirits genuinely lifted, and I found joy in my work again. During this time, I noticed a male customer who frequently visited my store.
"You come here often. I'm glad you like our clothes,"
I said to him. He blushed slightly and replied cheerfully, "Yes, I find myself drawn here." I was pleased that he liked the clothes I adored, but then he shyly looked down and said, "Actually, it's the salesperson I'm interested in." I couldn't help but ask, "Really?" Thinking I might have misheard. But he looked up confidently and asked, "Can I come to see you again?" My heart raced at his words. "Yes, please do visit again." I'd be lying if I said I wasn't happy. Actually, I was thrilled. But considering our customer-salesperson relationship, I restrained my emotions and responded calmly. After receiving my answer, he smiled happily and said, "Then I'll come again," before leaving. I found myself excitedly wondering when this man, whose name I didn't even know, would visit next. 3 years had passed since then. Now, I have quit my job at the apparel company and opened my own store. The store occupied the first floor, with my home on the second and third floors. Thanks to introducing the store creation process on video sharing sites before opening, many customers visited my shop. Most of them were young, so I promoted on social media targeting young people, making my store popular enough to become a topic of conversation. I even got media coverage from a TV station. It was hard to believe this was all happening to me, but every time my store was mentioned on TV or social media, I savored the fact that it was gaining popularity. I was living fulfilling days, but one Sunday night, a call came to my store. I was busy tallying the week's sales and thought not to answer the phone since it was past closing time. However, the phone rang again after a brief pause. This happened about 5 times. Finally, after finishing the calculations, I picked up the receiver. "Hello, this is Julie's," I said, using the store name I derived from my own. There was a moment of silence on the other end. Thinking it might be a wrong or prank call, I said hello again. Then I heard a familiar voice, "Hey, long time no see." It was none other than Michael's voice. Why was he calling my store? I hadn't told Michael about opening it. In fact, I didn't want to have anything to do with him anymore. Feeling my whole body rejecting Michael, I deliberately said, "Who are you again?" "Huh?" A dumbfounded voice came from the other end. "It's me, Michael. We were together for 10 years, you can't have forgotten me." His repetition of me made me want to point out it sounded like a scam. "So, what do you want?" I had nothing to talk about with Michael, and wanted to hang up as soon as possible. "That's right, Julie, I kept you waiting. Looks like I can finally marry you. You've been waiting all this time, right? You always said you wanted to marry me. I've broken up with Natalie, so I guess I can marry you now." Michael's voice, laced with a sneer, sounded dark and detached from reality. I was disgusted by his words and tone, feeling a chill run down my spine. Marry Michael? Why was he bringing this up now? And his condescending attitude of doing me a favor by marrying me was unacceptable. How dare he propose marriage to me after all this time? What? What are you talking about? Why should I have to marry someone like you? I would never marry a man like you. I remembered how heartbroken and frustrated I was when Michael broke up with me. This was my chance to get back at him. "What did you say?" Michael's voice rose in anger after hearing my response. "Do you realize what you're saying? I'm offering to marry you, even though you're in your mid-30s. There's no reason for you to refuse." His shouting was grating and loud in my ears. "Are you even listening to yourself? Why should I marry a man who dumped me for such a terrible reason? I have no intention of ever dealing with a man like you again." I snapped back, and there was a moment of silence from Michael on the other end. Just then, a person came downstairs from the second-floor living quarters to the store. He must have heard my voice. That person, Steve, my husband, looked at me with concern. Steve was the man I met 3 years ago when I was managing the store. The male customer who said he was interested in the salesperson. Steve visited my store several times as he had promised. When Steve confessed he had feelings for me, I was torn about what to do. After all, he was a customer. Could a store manager like me, let alone an employee, really harbor personal feelings for a customer? Confused, I consulted a coworker who encouraged me with a nonchalant tone, "If you're really into him, why not?" Knowing how broken I was after being dumped by Michael, my coworker must have wanted to cheer me up. So, I started seeing Steve outside of work, eventually leading to a relationship, and we got married a year ago. Now, he's a staff member in my store, helping me run it. He's truly a kind and reliable husband. You see, actually. I covered the phone receiver and told Steve about Michael's relentless calls. Steve looked surprised, then asked me to hand him the phone. I wondered what he planned to say. After I gave him the phone, Steve switched it to speaker and started talking. Hello, this is Steve Smith. Michael Taylor, isn't it? Long time no see. Steve greeted him politely. Long time no see? Who are you? Michael sounded confused. I didn't understand why Steve would say long time no see to Michael either. Sensing our confusion, Steve cleared his throat and began to explain. Mr. Michael Taylor, have you forgotten about me? 2 years ago, you were so eager to sell me insurance. But it was so expensive, I had to decline. Curious about the high cost, I researched and found your company's website and reviews, which mentioned affordable and good value insurance. That's odd, I thought. So, I contacted them, and it turned out you were quoting inflated insurance costs. What, you're that guy from back then? Hearing Steve's story seemed to trigger a memory for Michael, who clearly started to panic on the other end of the line. I was puzzled, not understanding what Steve was talking about. Then Steve elaborately explained the incident between him and Michael. When he tried to sell me insurance, I thought something was off, so I contacted his company, as I mentioned. The company, upon learning he was engaging in fraud, investigated his past sales records. It turned out he wasn't just deceiving me, he had been telling various people exaggerated costs and pocketing the extra money. Worse still, he targeted housewives and elderly people who were not savvy about insurance. Essentially, he was collecting false insurance fees from customers and stealing that money. Naturally, his actions led to his dismissal from the company. Steve's revelation was shocking to me. Michael, who seemed so dedicated to his job, was actually committing fraud. Deceiving Steve and others for money? It's because of you that I ended up like this. Natalie was fooling around with another man and even had a child. As soon as I lost my job, she left me for him. After all I did for her. And now I hear Julie is doing well with her own store, even on TV. I thought marrying her would secure my future. Please, Julie, marry me. You're the only one left for me. You're the only one who truly loved me. I'm sorry for what happened 3 years ago. I promise to make you happy. So. I felt nauseous hearing Michael's pleas. He got fired for his own fraudulent actions. Besides, Natalie's affairs have nothing to do with me or Steve. She was probably flaky from the start. Michael always thought I still loved him, which angered me the most. I looked at Steve next to me and nodded firmly. Steve was the only one I needed in my life. I wanted nothing to do with Michael, the man who abandoned me. Clenching my hot palms, I unleashed all my anger into the phone. Are you stupid? My voice was so cold, it surprised even me. I could imagine Michael on the other end, visibly shuddering. What do you mean, stupid? Typically, the short-tempered Michael immediately got angry, barking back in a pathetic manner. I was ready to teach Michael a harsh lesson about reality. The stupid thing is that you think I still love you. Who do you think you are? I'm married to Steve now. I'm happy. The world has turned upside down compared to when I was with you, enduring a long-distance relationship, waiting for you, and then being discarded. Thanks to Steve, I've gradually forgotten about you. And now, what? You probably called me after seeing me on TV, thinking I have money, right? It's so obvious. You don't love me. You just show up when it's convenient after dumping me like that. And you think I'd have feelings for you? What a delusional jerk. You've lost your job, your woman, and now this. It suits you, a life like yours. You get it, right? I have absolutely no lingering feelings for you. So, don't bother me anymore. If you do, I'll report you to the police. Goodbye. As I rapidly unleashed all my anger, Michael protested, "Hey, wait a second." But I ignored his voice and hung up. Michael's pathetic voice, which had echoed throughout the store, fell silent, as if it had never been there. I relaxed the tense strings of my nerves, leaning into Steve.
I'm sorry. I got a bit carried away. No, it's understandable. Anyone would be confused by such a call. Julie, thank you again for choosing me. I will make you happy, I promise.
Steve's kind words seeped into my weary heart like a vitamin boost. Ah, I'm so glad I married this man. Ironically, it's because of my relationship with Michael that I can feel this way. I, too, want to make Steve happy for the rest of his life. Several days passed since then, and Michael stopped calling the store. But instead, I noticed a suspicious figure lurking around the shop several times. Dressed in black with sunglasses and a mask, a classic suspicious look, I didn't hesitate to call the police. It turned out to be Michael, trying to forcibly take me back.
Hey, wait! I know that woman. I just want to talk to her.
Yeah, right. We'll listen to your story at the station.
Damn it!
Michael, caught red-handed, was dragged away by the police, his excuses falling on deaf ears. I later learned about Michael's fate from a college friend who was still in touch with him. After being thoroughly interrogated by the police, Michael was fined several $1,000s. Unable to pay because he was jobless, he had to borrow money. On top of that, he had debts from the money he spent on his ex-wife, Natalie. With no one willing to hire him, even for part-time work, due to his fraud at his previous company. He had to resort to menial jobs, earning just enough for pocket money, but nowhere near enough to pay off his debts. The interest kept accumulating, and he soon couldn't even afford his rent, forcing him to look for live-in work. However, failing repeatedly in interviews, Michael ended up living in a park. His parents, who once hoped he would marry me, had given up on him after he left me for a younger woman. It seems that Michael's parents had always hoped he would marry me, but they gave up on him after he left me for a younger woman. It's all a result of his own actions. Imagining Michael enduring the wind, rain, heat, and cold while living in a park is pitiful, but it seems fitting for what he brought upon himself. On the other hand, I recently discovered I'm pregnant with our first child. Despite my age, Steve and I were overjoyed, jumping around with excitement. I won't be able to work at the store for a while, but Steve reassured me, leave it to me. Having such a reliable employee and husband, I feel incredibly happy. I want to continue living this bright and joyous life, cherishing this certain happiness.
Choosing a younger woman over an old hag like you is only natural, right?
If I'm an old hag, then you're an old geezer. I wanted to snap back with that but held it in, glaring at my husband's smirking face. True, I'm older than my husband and the oldest in this house. The young woman my husband referred to, almost twice my junior, is none other than our daughter-in-law. Yes, the person my husband had an affair with is our son's wife. And she, being called a young woman, seemed pleased, clinging to my husband's arm and looking down on me with disdain.
Really, don't you feel sorry for her? A woman who marries only to have her husband turn out like this, it's no wonder she'd have an affair or two.
My husband said dismissively, referring to our son. Such heartless words for our son who had just received a terminal diagnosis. I was about to yell, but a calm voice spoke from behind me.
Hey, Mom.
Our son, caught in this mess, had a surprisingly serene face. But his eyes betrayed an uncontainable anger.
I need your help with something.
Okay? My name is Kelly, a 55-year-old office worker. My husband Nick is younger, 51 years old. We met 30 years ago through a hobby, mountaineering. There was a group with a wide age range, from 20s to 60s, and a roughly equal gender distribution. Mountaineering is great, isn't it? Why did you start, Kelly? Nick was approachable, bright, and easy to talk to even on first meeting. I started because of my dad.
Inspired by your dad, that's nice.
What about you, Nick? Why did you start mountaineering? Well, if there's a mountain, a guy just wants to climb it.
What's that about?
His open, indiscriminate nature quickly made us friends. How old are you, Kelly? Me? I'm 26. My type is a mature woman. Really? That means you're younger, right? How old are you? 22.
So young.
It's just a 4-year difference.
It's quite a difference.
Is it? Our conversation was so enjoyable. That day, the day we met, he asked me out on the mountain summit.
Actually, I fell for you at first sight.
My heart had already been his during the climb, so I immediately agreed. From that day, we were a couple, sharing our passion for mountaineering. We enjoyed dates and never running out of things to talk about. A year into our relationship, I found out I was pregnant. This led to our marriage. After marrying, I realized Nick wasn't much of a saver. He was a hard-working employee, but at 23, he earned less than me and tended to spend his paycheck immediately. Around my 9th month of pregnancy, I took maternity leave. Though I received some salary during this period, it was less than when I was working. We heavily relied on my nearby parents for financial support. They helped not just with money but in various ways, and I gave birth to a healthy boy. We named our son Joshua and raised him with great care. I returned to work before Joshua turned 1. Balancing work and childcare was challenging, but we supported our family through both our jobs. Joshua grew up healthy and lively. In a blink, he turned 24. After graduating from college, he lived on his own and seemed to work hard. One day, he called saying, "I have something important to discuss with you, Mom and Dad. Please keep next Sunday free." It was that Sunday. My husband and I were both nervous. When the doorbell rang and I opened the door, there stood Joshua and a woman about his age. She was a demure, pretty woman. "Mom, Dad, let me introduce you. This is Nancy, whom I'm currently dating."
"Nice to meet you. I'm Nancy,"
she said, bowing slightly. "What a charming lady," my husband remarked, and Joshua beamed happily.
"We're planning to get married,"
Joshua announced. Nancy was apparently Joshua's co-worker. Hearing about my son getting married filled me with a deep sense of joy. Gosh, Joshua is at the age to get married. What's with that nostalgic tone, Mom? So, what do you like about Nancy? I asked straightforwardly, though it felt a bit bold. She's usually reserved, but speaks her mind when it matters. She even stands up to me, her coworker, without hesitation.
"That's because Nick is."
Let's not start with the critiques. My husband interjected, and everyone burst into laughter. Watching their affectionate interaction filled me with happiness. After Joshua and Nancy left, I spoke to my husband. "She's a wonderful woman, isn't she?" "Yes, quite charming." "You keep saying charming a lot." I sighed. "Do I still look young?" "You look younger than your age, but don't take Nancy's words too seriously. She was just being polite." I was 52 and my husband was 48, but he seemed thrilled with Nancy's compliment about his looks. 2 years after the marriage proposal, 26-year-old Joshua and his wife came over. "We're thinking of buying our own home and need to save up. Could we move in with you?" "Move in? I don't mind, but you have Nancy's consent, right?" Our house is spacious with extra rooms. There was enough space for Joshua and his wife. However, I doubted any daughter-in-law would be thrilled about living with her mother-in-law so soon. When I asked, it turned out Nancy was the one who suggested it. In a later discussion with all 4 of us, Nancy seemed genuinely excited about living together. I asked my husband, "What do you think, honey?" He looked delighted. "If they live with us, we can see our grandchildren right away if they're born." Nodding in agreement. I understood his enthusiasm for potential grandchildren. We all agreed to start living together. I was still working, so I wasn't home much. Nancy quit her job after getting married and became a full-time homemaker. She took care of the house during the day. She has been a great help, taking on responsibilities like receiving deliveries and taking care of laundry and meal preparations. Thankfully, our limited time together meant fewer conflicts, and life was smooth. But this arrangement didn't last long. About a year in, we discovered Joshua had a disease weakening his immune system. The dinner on the day of the diagnosis was silent. I tried to accept it, but couldn't help fearing the worst, leading to a sleepless night. After the diagnosis, Nancy started working to help with Joshua's medical expenses and was frequently out. As Joshua's condition worsened, he eventually needed a wheelchair. We all supported him and decided to rely on a daytime caregiver. One evening while I was washing dishes, my daughter-in-law, Nancy, had a request. I have sudden work tomorrow. But it's the day I'm supposed to take Joshua to the hospital. I tried to say no, but they insisted I must come in. Kelly, can you take Joshua to the hospital for me? Of course. Thanks. Oh, Mom's taking me tomorrow? Joshua's frail voice came from the living room, connected to the kitchen. I hurried over to listen. After the hospital, can we go shopping? There's something I want to buy. Sure. Why don't we grab some pancakes after shopping? There's that new pancake place, right? Nick suggested, browsing on his phone. Sounds good. Let's have lunch then. The next day, I pushed Joshua's wheelchair to the hospital. It was a busy Monday, and the crowded hospital seemed to tire Joshua. So, we decided to skip shopping and head home early. Joshua told me in the car that he wanted to buy a gift for Nancy. To thank her for always supporting him. But it's pathetic. I can't even shop for what I want. And we didn't get it today. He muttered sadly, and I felt a lump in my throat hearing his words. Your intention is enough, I assured him, but he didn't respond. So I tried to sound cheerful. How about we make some pasta for lunch? We arrived home much earlier than planned. To my surprise, Nancy's car was there, though she was supposed to be at work. Huh? Did Nancy not go to work? As I got out of the car and passed Nancy's car, I saw something horrifying. Inside her car were Nancy and Nick, who was supposed to be at work. Joshua, can you go inside first? I asked, helping him into the house. After he was inside, I saw Nick through the car window. Crouching down, fumbling with something. Peering in, I caught him trying to buckle his belt in the cramped car, over Nancy. The car seat was reclined, and they were in a compromising position. Not at all like a father-in-law and daughter-in-law. I knocked on the window and told them to come inside. So, what exactly were you two doing in that tight space? I confronted them in a room separate from where Joshua rested. The situation was undeniably suspicious. But they didn't seem flustered. Waiting for one of them to speak, Nick snorted. It's obvious, isn't it? What else would a man and a woman do in a cramped car? His brazen response shocked me. I saw my husband with such an ugly expression for the first time. His attitude and words instantly made my blood boil. Man and woman? You're her father-in-law, and there's a significant age gap. Age is just a number. It's all about looks. I'm younger looking than sick Joshua, aren't I? He's pale and all. You think that way? I was just helping Nancy. She can't be intimate with her immobile husband. Poor Nancy, crying secretly knowing Joshua's life is short. I just offered her some comfort. You just took advantage of her. And Nancy, are you okay with this? I confronted my son's wife, who was standing beside my husband with a look of dissatisfaction on her face. I want to enjoy my life too. Work, hospital visits, house chores. I hate it. Why should I suffer while others my age have fun? Right, Nancy is still young. It's sad she's stuck caring for a sick person and working every day. Shut up! I yelled at Nick. Nick has money and health, so he can fulfill my desires. I've decided to switch to him. Nancy declared, and I was repulsed by their callousness. So, you've been involved since Joshua got sick? Yes. Nick admitted nonchalantly. Is all this true? The living room door opened, and there was Joshua, trembling with rage, looking at them. Is it true?
While I'm suffering from illness, have you two been having a good time?
Joshua confronted them loudly. However, it was the body of my son, weakened to its limits. His weakened body must have struggled to shout. I went to him and put my hand on his back.
Joshua doesn't deserve to be yelled at.
Nancy raised her voice.
I thought I'd be happy after marrying. I quit my job for this, but ended up working again. No trips, no shopping, just hospital, work, and home. I've been sacrificing my desires for your care.
That's right, Joshua. You should thank Nancy first. Joshua clenched his fists. I couldn't hold back and scolded Nancy.
What kind of attitude is that? We have a caregiver during the day, and at night it's mainly me and your father taking care of you. And you say you had to work, but we were the ones paying most of the living expenses. The treatment costs were coming out of Joshua's insurance.
Nancy's words sounded as if she had sacrificed everything, but that wasn't the case. She hadn't been taking care of Joshua at all. She was out working during the day, and at night, it was mostly me who looked after him. Even house chores like cooking and laundry, which we were supposed to share equally after she started working, ended up being mostly on me because she was overwhelmed at her new job. I had been supporting them financially and taking care of everything. At times, I felt like nothing more than a maid. Yet, I had cooperated, considering her plight of having a husband with a life-threatening illness at a young age. And to be treated this way was unbearable. Nick, however, seemed completely oblivious to my feelings.
Looks like Nancy was quite dissatisfied with a lot of things.
Nick said with a vile smirk.
You can't satisfy your wife with that body, right? A husband who's not only broke but also a burden. It's only natural for her to leave a sick husband like you.
Right.
Don't make me the villain. The bad one is you for getting sick.
I couldn't contain my anger at a daughter-in-law who didn't provide care, didn't contribute to household chores, and didn't bring in any income. And my disgust for Nick, who, despite being a father, could insult his suffering son to such an extent.
Enough from both of you.
Why did Joshua, who had been planning to buy a gift for his wife after his hospital visit, have to endure this? I was infuriated.
I want a divorce.
I told Nick.
I'm divorcing you. That suits me fine. I'd rather be with a young and pretty girl than an older woman. I'll give you your divorce.
Nick replied, putting his arm around Nancy and snorting.
Nancy, you should divorce him too.
Joshua said to her in a trembling voice. I expected her to agree, but she immediately refused. No.
If I divorce you now, I won't get your inheritance, right? After all the hardship I've endured, I deserve it. What are you saying? Please divorce my son and do whatever you want with that man.
I pleaded. It was as if she was waiting for Joshua to pass away sooner. No.
But I'll leave this house. I'll come back for the inheritance once you're gone.
Nancy said, and she and Nick quickly packed and left. Joshua maintained his composure beside me, still in shock.
Mom, I need your help with something.
Joshua said firmly.
I'll never forgive those two. There's a quiet rage burning inside me.
I could see a quiet flame of anger burning within my son. Unlike me, he possessed a calmness in the face of it all, which was truly admirable.
What do you have in mind?
Yes.
I'll do whatever it takes to help you, Joshua. Can you listen to my plan then?
Of course. Joshua and I devised a plan. Later, only Nick returned home. He brought the divorce papers, and Nick and I eventually finalized our divorce. As for Nancy, she never responded to any of our calls. 5 years later, Joshua passed away. I always wished he could have outlived me. His funeral was attended by many, including medical staff and colleagues from his previous job. Among the many attendees, I spotted two faces I hadn't forgotten in 5 years. My ex-husband and Nancy.
Oh, you're here.
They both looked shabby. Nick, who had always boasted about his looks, appeared older than his age, his cheeks sunken. Nancy had lost her initial charm, her face hardened. They were both wearing worn-out clothes. As soon as they saw me, their eyes lit up like cats who had found their prey.
"I'm here for the inheritance,"
Nancy said to me as if it were the most natural thing in the world.
"I deserve to inherit because of all the hardship I went through caring for him."
That's right.
There should be an inheritance. You're not planning to keep it all to yourself, are you? A child's property should be inherited by their parents. Just because we divorced after an affair doesn't mean our parent-child relationship is over. I'm entitled to Joshua's inheritance too. Hurry up and give us the money! This man has no savings, and these past 5 years have been really tough. But I've endured it all, thinking I'd get Joshua's inheritance. The affair was 5 years ago, so you've forgiven us by now, right?
Nancy's transformation was laughable. She used to sweetly call his name, and now she refers to him so casually. The only reason my ex-husband had money to spend freely was because I gave him an allowance. Since my salary was higher than his, I've been giving him money every month since we got married. I didn't want to risk him hiding his salary or not contributing to household expenses. So I gave him a bit more than necessary to avoid wasteful spending or hiding money. Despite divorcing me and marrying a younger woman, his nature hadn't changed. He was still no good at saving money and spent whatever he had. I bet life has been quite hard for the two of them since they left so boldly. I wonder where they found out about Joshua's death. They're really like hyenas.
Come on, give us the inheritance. You must have savings for a house, right? Don't think you can use it all up. I'm taking that along with the inheritance.
They pressed me, but I stood my ground and said firmly,
"There's no inheritance for you too." "What do you mean?" "This is what I mean."
I showed them a document. Their faces turned ashen upon seeing it.
"Give it to me."
Nancy snatched the document, trembling.
"Donation certificate."
She read slowly.
"Yes, Joshua recently realized his time was near and donated his entire fortune to a medical research institution. This is the certificate. All of Joshua's inheritance you were after is gone." "No way!" "What was the point of enduring these 5 years?"
She seemed to have grown tired of Nick, staying with him only for the sake of Joshua's inheritance.
"Then give me the money. I'm the one who took care of your son. I took him to the hospital, worked part-time, and sacrificed myself for him. I deserve to be paid."
Nancy demanded money from me.
"There's something I haven't been able to tell you because you two have been missing. Let me tell you now." "What?"
Nancy raised her eyebrows. I revealed another truth.
"You're no longer Joshua's wife. The divorce has already been finalized. So, you don't have any right to his inheritance." "What?" "That's a lie."
Nancy was shocked. The truth is, on the day Nick and Nancy's affair was exposed, Joshua recorded their conversation from the other side of the door. After they left our home, Joshua and I took the recording to a lawyer. We explained that Joshua wanted to divorce his wife, who had become unreachable due to her affair. The lawyer suggested a court process. Public notice was given, and with Nancy absent, the trial began. Joshua's divorce was easily granted.
"So, Nancy, even though you've been acting like Joshua's wife, you've been a stranger for a long time." "A stranger?" "Such a foolishness. To think you've been living with another man for 5 years.
If Nick truly loved Nancy, he might have changed his heart and urged her to divorce and remarry him. But in the end, Nick just wanted a young woman who would provide him with physical comfort and care. Neither of them made any effort to change their situation, simply waiting eagerly for Joshua to pass away. That's why Nancy didn't realize she was single, and Nick didn't want to let go of his young wife who catered to him. I sighed heavily and turned to face them.
"Furthermore, I'm demanding compensation. You'll have to pay for the damages." "Damages? You can't be serious. We're already in debt. We thought Joshua's inheritance would clear our debts, but we can't pay any damages." "Exactly. Why are you demanding damages now?"
I always intended to demand compensation. You two just disappeared before I could. Now that you're back, of course, I'm going to ask for it. By the way, I've recorded everything you've said since you arrived. So, don't even try to deny the affair now. I informed them and they were so infuriated by my words that they lunged at me.
Hey! What are you doing?
Fortunately, medical staff and company employees present at the scene restrained them, so I wasn't hurt. Are you all right?
Yes, thank you.
While being restrained, Nick and Nancy continued to yell, "Give us the money." Then I heard the sound of a police car, and officers arrived. You two are suspected of fraud. Please come with us to the station. Someone at Joshua's funeral must have called the police. Nick and Nancy were taken away by the police. Later, I learned from the police that they had been involved in fraud to repay their debts and had other criminal charges against them. They would be spending some time behind bars. I was surprised they had stooped to fraud. The two who had hurled insults at Joshua now faced social consequences. Nancy wasted her valuable 20s, despite all her complaints. While I sympathized with her for having a husband who fell ill young, everything else was her own doing. I felt no pity for the two who had even resorted to criminal acts. I didn't know the extent of their debts, but they might be chased by repayments until their deaths. I might not get the damages I demanded, but I didn't care anymore. If they were suffering that much, let them suffer out of my sight. It's been years since Joshua passed away. But I still receive thank you letters from patients every day, grateful for Joshua's donation. I read these letters and feel proud of my son's choice. His donation, which never reached the two who awaited his death, is helping many people. Joshua apologized for leaving me with nothing when he told me about his plan. But years after his funeral, I still receive letters of gratitude. His choice continues to nourish others' lives. How proud I am. I am truly fortunate to have had such a wonderful son. I continued working after retirement. My job is fulfilling and enjoyable. I'm glad I acquired specialized qualifications and knowledge when I was younger. Back then, I was desperate to raise my salary for Joshua's sake, studying hard for certifications. I have enough assets to live on my own, and I owe it all to Joshua. I still keep up with my hobby of mountain climbing. Joshua, thank you. I'll make sure to enjoy the rest of my life. Wait for me there. I whispered to his smiling